Welcome to the show. Thanks for being with us. 5 on It Live begins in 10 minutes. Five on It Live begins in 9 minutes. Five on It Live begins in 8 minutes. Five on It Live begins in 7 minutes. Five on It Live begins in 6 minutes. Five on It Live begins in 5 on it live minutes. Five on it live begins in 4 minutes. Five on it live begins in 3 minutes. Five on it live begins in 2 minutes. Five on it live begins in 1 minute.
welcome back to 5 on It Live. Mallory?
Craig.
We've done it again.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Hi.
And hi to you. Let's get started right first.
Right first? Okay.
Phone number. Chris? Chris, give us that phone number. You know what? There's our phone number. 712-345-6648. If we didn't start it awkwardly, would we really be doing it at all? This is live television, and live television is all about us and all about you communing on this very special night.
On a Saturday.
On a Saturday.
As we do.
Right around Halloween. We want to take your calls. We also have a very special guest with us, but we'll get to that just a little bit later. I think first of all, how you been, Mallory?
Oh, pretty good. I mean, I've spent the week with you.
Yeah.
Which
it's
is
pretty good.
A good time. It's pretty good.
Pretty good to hang with you. And in fact, it wasn't just hanging with you. Also, very important, somebody else was here with us. My dog, Isa.
She is a very important person.
Yeah. My dog, Isa, has been helping us out a lot. And actually, I was just playing a game here. In fact, our producer, Chris, who you all know as Producer Chris, maybe the show in some circles. Chris has flown to Los Angeles to correct some of the mistakes that I made last week. And I'll tell you what a breath. Actually, what a breath of fresh air, because
truly,
I feel like today's show, I'm starting in exactly the mind space that I really have always wanted to like take it in, respond sensitively, curiously, to hear people. And, you know, when I'm running around without a Chris by my side, it just feels like the world's out to get me, and I don't have a way.
Oh, I don't want that for you. No one wants that for you.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been so nice having Producer Chris here. I mean, the three of us have never been in the same place before.
Right. And that's been
deal.
Interesting.
Yeah.
He did remind me a lot of this friend that I had in second grade. Yeah. And I remember this second grade friend so much because we played Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles a lot. And he also taught me how to draw. How would I describe this without a picture? You know, when children are drawing humans, the feet.
Yeah.
Okay, so as a boy, I was thinking, how am I gonna? And you always draw the feet like they're standing like this, you know, shoes off to either side.
Sure.
Right. And Tim taught me that's not the way shoes look. They look like this. And so then I started drawing little like almonds at the bottom of people's pants.
Wow.
Tim was wrong.
Well, I mean, he's right depending on the perspective.
Right.
You know.
The perspective was wrong.
Okay.
But
I mean,
I mean you're giving Tim grace. And in fact, it was such an impactful moment in my life that I've really taken that association like this far in life, so much so that when Chris showed up, I thought, oh, there's the guy that taught me how to draw feet wrong, but better than I was drawing them before.
Okay.
I feel like this is...
Is this a metaphor?
Yeah, I think it is for something. Either way, we're happy to have Chris here.
So happy.
We're happy to be here.
Yeah.
We've got the city of Los Angeles behind us, which, by the way, the World Series was last night. Oh, wait, we don't care about that. You guys don't care about that. Do we care? I mean, I care.
I feel, yeah.
But actually,
baseball.
I don't think our
I
audience
mean,
does.
we care insofar as there might be fireworks later.
Yeah, there might be fireworks, and I'll point them out.
Up there.
You know, actually, I've been thinking about this a lot, Mallory.
Yeah, Craig.
Everybody seems to be talking about the presidential election and baseball and football and Bitcoin. You know,
are people still talking about Bitcoin?
I don't know. I don't really talk to that many people, but it feels like it's in the culture, you know. And I really feel like our show we are stand apart in so many ways, and one of those ways is that we promise to you that we won't talk to you about the World Series or the presidential election.
That's a promise?
Yeah, I think I just made that promise.
Great. Okay, I can get on board with that.
You're good with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, here's something else that I
What
wanted.
are we going to talk about, though?
I'm glad you asked.
Yeah.
I have a very important and special friend to me, named Lux, who I met when I was just a baby in Los Angeles, and just a fascinating and beautiful and kind spirit. And they will be our guest this evening to kind of explore with us and our curiosities some questions that we might have about the occult, about magic, esotericism. Is that the proper term? Esotericism?
Esotericism? Esoteric, the esoteric.
The
is maybe
esoteric?
an
Yes, the
easier way of
esoteric.
saying it.
And so we kind of got into that a little bit last week. But this week, while we've been kind of comfortable where we are, we've been kind of dabbling in those things a little bit more calmly and with more intention. And part of that kicked off when we did a kind of a pre-interview with Lux, and we were doing some tarot reading. I was doing some tarot readings, which I haven't done in a long time. And man, it did feel kind of mystical, like things were coming through me, and I wasn't really conscious about it. Either way, I think that the readings went pretty well by my eye. Oh my God, there's a dog here.
That's Isa.
Oh, that's my dog.
Yeah, it's your dog. It's
Anyway,
okay.
yeah. So what I wanted to speak about was when we were rearranging the furniture in here so that we could do our show this evening. There was a card that fell out, and although it's considered the end, I thought that it might be a beautiful place that we could begin
That we could start?
our show. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I'm explaining it to you like you don't already know, and I appreciate you humoring me. So, Chris, can you see that? Can you see that?
Wait, I could maybe hold it closer. from
Okay,
over
yeah,
here.
maybe,
This is
yeah,
fun.
maybe hold it closer. This card is the universe from the Hermetic deck. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Oh, so what was that word that we learned when we were looking up?
Abstruse.
Abstruse. That should be a wordle.
Too many words. Too many letters.
That's why I don't deal
letters.
with. That's why I don't deal with Wordle. It's too exclusive. And so the universe and this card falling out. I'm bringing this up because I feel like it sets the stage. It felt so much like it was even like spit out between the cracks, right?
Yes. And can I read what it says on the bottom of it?
Yeah,
Because
please
it says
do. I think it's
universe
important.
at the top. And for those who are familiar with tarot, it's the last card in the deck, also known as the world sometimes. But in this deck, they also have at the bottom just like a one-sentence summary or something. And
Well,
this,
I think that's the title of the card in the Hermetic deck.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So it says universe, the great one of the night of time.
And here we are
And here we are.
in the night of time with the queen. I'm the queen.
You're the queen. You can be the queen.
I'll be the queen.
And
you
I'll
can
be the king?
You can be the king.
That's nice.
Okay, great. And if you at home have any plans or desires to be somebody else in the royal community here of night, please give us a call, 712-345-6648. Is that the end of our intro?
I think we covered
Pretty much everything.
I mean, well, certainly not everything, but I think that's a good intro.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to Lux.
I'm really excited to bring Lux
So-
on. Yeah.
in that sense, you want to go to commercial?
Good idea. Yeah.
Do the oh, it's me. Hey, Chris. If you wouldn't mind, play some commercials that are distinctly Halloween-y and maybe a little scary.
Ooh.
And we'll be right back with.
Great Halloween parties begin at Walgreens. Candy, party decorations, masks, costumes, makeup. Everything you need for Halloween fun now at Walgreens.
Ever hear of a gift certificate that turns into a soft drink? Oh, it can happen this Halloween. When you give out McDonald's Halloween gift certificates, kids take them to McDonald's and they get a McDonald's soft drink. Oh, what is that? A book of 20 Halloween gift certificates costs only $1. And can turn into 20 regular soft drinks. It must be the magic of Halloween.
Nobody can do it like McDonald's can.
Nobody.
I'm Freddy Krueger, and you're invited to my special get-together. But beware, you may never leave. Dial this number now. I've got some grisly new tales for you. And if you're one of my lucky callers selected at random, you'll talk to me live while you're awake and safe. So dial this number now if you dare. Talk to me live. Freddy Krueger is waiting just for you.
$2 for the first minute, 35 cents each additional minute.
For Halloween, Toys R Us doesn't miss a trick, and the prices are a treat. We've got costumes for all Toys R Us kids, even grown-ups, and loads of candy, makeup, masks, and more. Toys R Us will make your Halloween supernatural.
This morning, Billy looked like any other boy, but as the moon rose, he turned into a werewolf. He used new Pa's Halloween makeup kits. His friends did too. Look, Mike's a vampire. Amy's a ghost. Pa's makeup is safer than masks. It never blocks vision, and it's hypoallergenic too. So watch your kids turn into the creatures they really are with new Pa's Halloween makeup kits.
Tales of horror that will give you the creeps.
This is going to be extremely painful, Mr. Verrill.
The most fun you'll ever have being scared. Creep Show. Rated R.
Now playing at a theater near you.
Granola dip. I really dip. Granola dip. Chocolate and granola already in my whole granola dip.
Quaker granola dips, a hauntingly wholesome Halloween treat. Chewy granola dipped in real milk chocolate.
Chocolate and granola, lose my self-control and granola dip.
The perfect treat for your little monsters.
Granola dips. I remember those. Those were so good. Wait, this isn't important right now. We're back. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sticking around. And Mallory, with you, I think we have our very special guest. Let's introduce Lux to our show.
Hello.
Hi, Lux.
How's it going?
It's really, really, really well.
It's great to be here with you guys.
Well, thank you so much for being here. We've known each other for quite some time, but our audience obviously isn't familiar with us. So if you can tell us a little bit about yourself, Lux, who are you?
So I'm an individual, just like you guys.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been practicing and studying the occult for some time now, and I'm 29 years old. And I started around the time I was 17. Yeah.
What brought you? Okay, that's a great place to start. So I am so interested in unlocking this. So first of all, let's say you got started in the occult in 17. What specific discipline of occultism were you involved in at first? Is that how it started? Were you like brought into some sort of occult, or did you go out seeking it?
Well, I first heard in obviously like heavy metal music and stuff. I first started off with like Ozzy Osbourne and hearing of Mr. Crowley. that
Uh-huh.
first sparked my interest, and I studied and looked into that person. And after reading the lyrics of that song, it just piqued my interest of what that person might have been about.
And you're born and raised in LA, right?
Yes.
So somehow Crowley hits harder inside of Southern California, and specifically the greater Los Angeles area. And I'd say, to me, even harder still high above Los Angeles and the Hollywood Hills, right? What do you know much of the history of Aleister Crowley being in Los Angeles and the importance of that?
So early on, the OTO first started off here in Los Angeles with the Agape Lodge, and it was carried on by Jack Parsons and Helen Parsons,
Which are really...
and another gentleman named Wilford Talbot Smith, and they were the first pioneers of the Lema in North America and the States.
Right. And so the OTO, what exactly, and you're a member of the OTO, correct?
I am not a member
Okay,
of the
forgive
OTO.
me. I know the nomenclature makes is important.
Yes.
So you're affiliate to, what exactly is the OTO?
It is a organization, a private fraternal organization, which they host public rituals called the Gnostic Mass. And it is something that is open to the public. You could go, anybody.
I will be going.
And it's very interesting. It's a different form of experiencing a Catholic Eucharist, but in the form of Gnosticism.
Okay. And could you inform us a little bit about Gnosticism?
So Gnosticism is basically like the belief in like early, how basically early human religion started, so to speak, like early creation stuff, like Adam and Eve type stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the creation story as a secularist, maybe even an antagonist that I might be. Sometimes, all that aside, I've enjoyed the creation story in bits that I've heard, mainly through like ancient Torah depictions of it. But explain to me how Gnosticism. Okay, well, first of all, I always, when I hear these words, I align it with like Satanism. I align it with anti-Catholicism, if that is what Satanism is.
Well, Satanism is more of the belief in yourself and your own abilities.
Right.
And like standing up for yourself and not turning the other cheek, so to speak. So eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth type deal. And yeah, some people align with that better than other forms of magic. But Satanism is not all that negative that people put a connotation to be honest. Like, we still have scriptures we cite as well at the end of rituals sometimes, you know what I mean?
And I found that very interesting as we've been talking for the last week, how something that I thought, and I thought that I kind of knew a little bit about, it felt to me like it was always, again, it was the anti-religion. It was like following a moral code as opposed to an authoritative law, right?
Interesting.
And I always read like the reason why they were using that term, Satanism, and maybe even the way that it was conveyed to me was like kind of a fuck you at the door to people. Like, if you can't take that we're going to be nasty on principle, then it's not for you. And even though it has nothing to do with the Satanism that you might have in your mind or that you might project because of your religiosity, it has nothing to do with that. It's actually just designed to scare you.
Yes. It's more about self-indulgence. And if you can't handle it, then stay away, like how you said, you know what I mean? So yeah, a lot of people can't handle selfish behavior, where in turn, sometimes it's not even selfish. It's just knowing your boundaries and keeping those people away from you.
Yes, which I feel, as it applies to kind of the things that we've been investigating and are further investigating.
Fireworks.
I think they won the World Series. Anyway, the idea that well, to back up a little bit, the idea that there was so much of that Christian religiosity embedded in the way that you were speaking about the occult or Crowley's work, Crowley's writings, Satanism, with kind of a broad brush. It felt like there was a lot of references and lending to what we all know is like kind of the Christian canon. And that feels very interesting to me. So could you explain to me how something that is inherently anti-something is still taking from that and using it in some sort of religious service?
So they're pretty much, I guess what you're trying to say is, how are they using it aside from Christianity, right?
Yes. How are they using Christian canon? Yeah, specifically, I guess.
I mean,
well, for instance, you said that they read Bible verses, right? In ceremony.
There is known to be scripture at the end of certain rituals, just so we could know those certain parables and relate them to the Bible, just to make us known that we're also a part of that. You know what I mean? We're also, just because we're Satanists doesn't mean we're secular from that. We're also a part of that.
Right.
Oh, that's interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
I feel like how I'm hearing that, it sounds to me like it's in response to and necessarily in relation to.
So in essence, Satan, it could be, well, this entity or devil, demon, whatever you want to call Satan, could be said to be the shadow side of God. It is God's ego.
Oh, yeah.
It is his shadow side.
Yeah.
It is. There's no difference between the two, but they're one and the same.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah, I do too.
I love that as you were describing it to me. It was very illustrative. I was picturing, like God, and then almost like Two-Face for Batman, like the light on one side, or like the moon even. The light on one side and the darkness is this like perpetual shadow figure of the same. And as an entity, that seems reasonable, as allegory to like some sort of life experience or life direction.
A lot of people might find Satanism more palpable when they feel it in that sort of sense as well.
Can you say more about that? What do you mean by palpable?
Like, so okay, if we don't think of God and Satan as separate, they're one and the same. It's more easier to digest, because we all have a shadow side.
Absolutely.
We all think and have negative thoughts. I mean, regardless if you want to admit it or not.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
So. Okay, so then let's back up and how did and what is it that you found? How did Satanism or how did the occult find you? And how did, forgive me, my dog.
So after
after
getting into Crowley from Ozzy Osbourne and that great music.
Hell yeah.
One of my first jobs out of high school was working at a occult spiritual bookstore that is no longer in Whittier, California, called the Dharma Center. And it was this bookshop that would sit on top. I mean, you'd have to take a staircase to. And they would have tarot readings. They would have this lady come in and do Reiki. And it was very interesting. They had Crowley books, which, I mean, the lady that was working there, she'd be like, no, don't look at his books. They're evil. I'm like,
wow.
oh, that's interesting. So it made me even more interested, because she wanted me to obviously keep me from looking at them.
Right.
So yeah.
So I'm guessing you looked at them.
Yes,
Okay.
of course. And within looking into Aleister Crowley's system of magic, it's been the most direct form of connecting with the spiritual aspect, world, whatever you want to call it, current, that there is for me and has been for me, aside from like witchcraft, Satanism, and stuff like that. This was a system that's more direct and easy to use. And honestly, like anybody could use it. There's no discrimination, I feel.
So that's very interesting to me. So what exactly? He says very interesting as well. Forgive us. This is live television. So you said it's like an easier way of using, and so walk us through that, and let's go slow because this magical element has been very influential to me, and I have a lot of like real experiences that have changed kind of my thought process regarding secularism and not being aligned with supernatural experiences. I have somehow found this potential mechanism to allow for these magical elements of life to coexist with a completely grounded and physics ruled reality. Okay, so enough about me. Let me just set that stage, and then how was it that you began practicing these specific disciplines? And again, I know the nomenclature matters. And by the way, if you're out there at home and you have any questions, or if you have any experience within the occult or Satanism specifically, please give us a call, 712-345-6648. I do the song, but it's not that type of show. Go ahead.
So yeah, with the religions like Christianity or Catholicism, there's a lot of dogma to it, which like dogma as in following one specific Jesus, you know what I mean? Within like occultism or spirituality, we're following a more universal God, a God with no gender, no sex, no masculinity or femininity. Something that's universal, something that everybody could relate to. That's why I said that, you know what I mean? Because whether we believe it or not, we're all a part of God and have God essence within us. As long as we have the ability to think and act for ourselves and make our own decisions, that is our God-given ability to create and manifest for ourselves.
This is exactly what Michael was saying last week.
Right? Yes, absolutely. And I think I'm curious, Lux, if you were raised with any specific religion?
I was not. I was always told that I was a Christian because my family was Christian, but there was I didn't feel no connection with that whatsoever.
Okay. But did you go to church? Where was it?
I would go to...
Your families do those kinds of rituals, you know?
Since my grandmother was the one babysitting me a lot, I would be forced to go to Christian Sunday church.
Okay. Was it Catholic?
No, Christian.
Okay. How did you feel there?
I mean, it's just like, it felt like going somewhere you didn't want to be, like going to the dentist or something.
That's a great analogy. Yeah, I felt that too. Yeah.
So, I mean, was there anything that was like life-changing? Do you remember anything that happened at the dentist office, in this case the church, that motivated you, inspired you? And I don't necessarily mean in a good way. I mean that inspired your life maybe against that.
No, a thing that inspired me in a positive way actually was seeing their form of ritual, like baptism and stuff like that, or like a confirmation and stuff like that. That was really interesting and moving to me, because sometimes, irregardless of whether you believe in it or not, you could feel the energy.
Absolutely. You know, I used to go to Christmas Mass every year and at midnight, and obviously I thought they were all relatively silly, and you know, it's like they're moving through these chants and songs, and some of them seem really ridiculous when you tune into the words, but that this like order of people at midnight inside of a stone building with these beautiful pieces of artwork in the windows and this giant corpse hanging on wood, that's levitating above the entire audience. And as they all rise in unison and then, kick out that little bench that's underneath it, and then I'll kneel, and the incense, the slow marches, the costumes, it all meant so much to me, and it felt, yes, it felt moving. It felt moving like the power of God, and in fact, I've always felt that way inside of churches, not believing in God, but I feel the awe of God inside of churches. And in fact, when I've been in Europe and you're in these century-old churches, whoa, it's like, I don't know if I feel like God was working through them, but it definitely feels like an inspired work. And some of these things, they were being built for 700 years, dozens of generations of the same family working on the same building to never see its conclusion, to never see its end. And, then me with my cell phone, I'm like selfieing around one of the thousands of carved marble faces on the roof, like I kind of lost exactly what please, Mallory.
Well, I mean, I think
you're
you're speaking to, the power that you feel in these holy spaces. And I think especially, Christmas Mass, I would go to midnight Mass on Christmas too. And there's an undeniable sort of power in the energy of like a group of people gathering in a place, all for the same reason and participating in the same rituals and chants and activities, that is powerful in itself. And it's funny that you were saying the power of God but then started saying like, there are some churches in the world that are like still being built, and I think that kind of dedication, it's the like human dedication to the practice that to me feels moving and energy. I mean, and could be called God.
Isn't that an interesting thought? Especially considering where we are right now, and Lux has been here all day with us. Thank you so much, Lux. But
absolutely,
we've come together as a team. Like all these different people and forces of energy, all working together to pull like one thing off that we don't necessarily reap much reward from in a physical sense, but the pride of working on it with other people and doing it almost ceremoniously as we have today. There's a magic to that. In fact, we've used magic all day today. So writing off of that thought, I want to hop into magic and the practice of magic and how possibly like the group or these orders that you belong to, magic being a principle.
So magic, like religion or belief, is a tool. It's a way to get by. It's something to believe in or have faith in. If you don't have a normal set of religion or beliefs, you could create your own, essentially. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But magic and things of that nature are just an aid to manifest your own reality.
Right. So can I tell you my first experience with magic?
Sure.
And you tell me what you think. And then I want to jam off of this thought process a little bit. So, have I told this on air before, Mallory? Chris? No.
I don't think so.
I see his face in the shadows, and it literally warms my heart.
I know.
It's magic. Okay. So, when I was first coming to California, I had never been to California before, and I got an opportunity with somebody that we both know, and I started driving, and when I thought, okay, this will finally be my experience to to experience the desert, to experience the psychedelia, to experience like the gravity impact of being around like these things that all of my heroes and mentors have written about or sung about or spoke about in some way as being a life-changing moment for them. So I felt very ready for that in my ripe old age. Don't comment, Mallory, please. So I was driving through the Mojave, and I saw this pile of stones. Maybe it was in Joshua Tree, and there was this rock jutting out from the top of this like pyramid. And it looked like a surfboard, and I thought, okay, that's the spot. So I ran up those rocks, which maybe you might presume I don't run up rocks so often. And I ran up those rocks with excitement, and I sat on the end of this little surfboard thing. And as I sat down, I felt these two grooves that were the perfect like fit for my thighs as my legs dangled off. And I thought, oh, wow, I bet people for millennia, whenever they're walking across this land, like they crawled up these exact rocks and sat on this exact stone and stuck their thighs in this exact place that has warned them for humans to sit, and they've scouted the entire area. And up there I could see everything. I could see forever. And it was monotonous, and it was dry, and it was hot, and it felt like, oh man, I don't get it. So I sat there for a while, and I got hotter, and I got sun-soaked, and it was still dry and monotonous and vast, and I just didn't understand what everybody was seeing. And I got really disappointed. And then I thought to myself, well, what if I was enjoying this? What would I think? What would be the words in my head? And I had the exact same words go through my head. Oh, this is so vast. And the inflection was different in my mind. Oh, this is so monotonous. And it wasn't just the inflection. Suddenly, it was inside of me. I really felt it that way. I really saw it that way. And I couldn't even remember what it was that I disliked about it. The exact same observation. So, as I walked down those rocks, I thought, fuck, that's magic. I changed my reality due to my will. And I couldn't get back that past if I wanted to. I mean, be careful what you wish for, they say, right? Mm-hmm. So, tell me what your thoughts are about that. Do you think that would be a depiction of will magic?
Well, honestly, I feel like sometimes magic could feel disappointing at first, too, when you want results right away. And sometimes it takes work and it takes time for the universe to meet you halfway with whatever you're doing. Mm-hmm. And honestly, when it comes to things like that, especially the way with how, I mean, God and the way the universe works with manifestation, if it's something that's really selfish, you will not get it right away. But if you're praying for somebody else, that's mm-hmm. more helpful towards a person. Mm-hmm. You cannot, yeah.
Have you ever experienced the pitfalls, maybe, of
course,
of doing some magic that is self-absorbed? Do you mind indulging us with a story like that, or is it okay to ask for these types of experiences?
Well, yeah, I mean, of course.
Please.
It's only human to have negative experiences as well, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And it's the negative experiences as well that we should allow ourselves to go through and build off of those instead of letting those eat us away sometimes, you know what I mean? So a negative experience, or as we take it, we need to try to form that into a positive or get the light aspect out of it. But what was your question again?
Is there a specific scenario where you were using magic and it bit back?
Yes, of course. We're just trying to manifest negative things, or like not negative but selfish wise. Like, let's say if I'm trying to manifest a love in my life or something like that, it's more better to be patient with those things and allow your own self to grow, and those things will come to you. You know what I mean? So don't wish for it, but fix those things within yourself. Allow yourself to love yourself enough to grow, and those things will automatically like gravitate towards you.
Okay. So then some might say that is a 10-step program. That is, wait, is it called 10-step?
I think there's 12.
I never finished the last two.
But no, I think you bring up a good point that I resonate with that idea, and I, got there in various forms of therapy,
That's interesting because I've never had therapy. And
no, I mean, I think that's what's beautiful is just different ways of getting to the same place.
I would honestly tell you too, magic is very therapeutic, especially when you feel like you have nothing or nobody there, nothing to believe in, you feel lost. It's been there for me so many times, and I'm able now to channel my raw emotions, whether they're anger, sadness, frustration, and channel those into more positive aspects, or a creative outlet, or honestly, it's okay to let yourself just cry it out sometimes.
Oh yeah, sometimes that's necessary.
Exactly. A lot of people don't allow themselves the space to feel emotion, to go through that hurt.
I think this is something that came up last week with Michael. Is in my experience of sort of dipping my toes into magic and spirituality in my own way, is that it, more than anything, it gave me the space to slow down and be in my body more, and not try and fix my feelings. Is that something that you have felt?
You mean to fix your own emotions, how you feel?
Yeah, I mean, fix, when I say fix, I mean change them or think that they're wrong, but to first,
First of all, I don't think anybody's feelings are wrong.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
everybody's feelings are valid. It's disappointing that people invalidate others' feelings to make you feel like they're wrong.
I think that's what I'm saying, is that I think in the world and culture we live in, we're told that certain feelings are wrong, and people like to have control of other people's feelings. And I think, for me, that's what my sort of individual spiritual practices looked like. It's really just slowing down and being present in my body to get away from that noise and this like culture of like shame to just like, oh, I'm feeling this. There's nothing bad about that. And in fact, allowing myself to sit in it is how I get through it.
Yeah, that's I would feel like that's spot on with trying to heal yourself first and allowing yourself to feel that cycle of emotion and get comfortable with it with yourself. You know what I mean? That's like one of the first steps. As long as you get comfortable with yourself and knowing your energy and your emotions and how to manage them, I mean, it's like you're unstoppable.
Yeah. So are there specific like rituals and practices that you've learned throughout these years, that help you do that?
I would say honestly the meditative ones, the ones where you just sit and allow yourself to feel. You know what I mean? You don't have to chant or hum anything. You just sit and just allow yourself to feel things. Sometimes it's okay to be alone. You don't need to be around a lover, a partner. You don't need to be around friends. You just need to spend some time alone and feel and like process your own growth and not fill your head or allow the world to fill your head with such nonsense, because we already have enough of that.
But is it not true though that like even in a magical sense, well, as I'm saying this, there are so many depictions of magical like creatures, the witch, the goblin, the I don't know, all of these.
It's funny that you say that, because a lot of the times, like the things that I'm talking about, emotions and stuff like that, a lot of people go their whole lives without allowing themselves to feel that. And I could imagine how monstrous and like ghoulish that must feel for a person. You know what I mean? that would turn somebody into a monster or a ghoul.
Or it possibly would make them see monsters and ghouls and anything that had emotions that they weren't allowing themselves to act out in.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I can absolutely sense that.
So let's say like an angry person who's yelling at somebody, verbally abusing somebody, that's a form of like psychic vampirism, where you're draining this person's energy, and you know you're draining this person's energy by yelling at them.
And it does feel like you're kind of sucking it up when you're putting them in their place as well.
Exactly. It's like you're creating a form of emotional memorabilia from this person.
Emotional memorabilia.
Emotional memorabilia.
Emotional memorabilia.
I'll say it one more time.
Yeah.
Emotional memorabilia.
Do you hear that at home? Do you have a collection of emotional memorabilia?
Just my own.
Well, not you, but anybody at home. I would love to know if you have some emotional memorabilia. Did something you lose end up on somebody else's emotional memorabilia rack? That rings so true. And in fact, I'm going to be honest. Maybe I carry emotional memorabilia around with me. Maybe emotional memorabilia that I've gathered from other people. Maybe they deserved it.
But also, that could be another subconscious thing where having emotional memorabilia could affect us subconsciously, and that could be the thing that's making us sad or upset or things like that.
Great
so
points.
sometimes it's good to vent and to let go, but also to have boundaries and not let your emotions be used or weaponized against you. So it's important to know who you're talking to and who you're making friends with. Because like
that's the truth.
Words are like spells. Emotions are like weapons.
It's funny you say that. I'm don't let me play devil's advocate, but I think that when you say that words are spells,
you're speaking them into the universe. Everything you're saying, you're speaking that into existence.
I do understand that
in some form or another.
I totally understand that, and I believe, and it's very poetic and beautiful. In fact, that like these words that we're saying are summoning, and I believe that to be the case. I also feel like, as a respectful and thoughtful person, maybe somebody that is aligned with the tenets of Satanism, as I understand them. You know where people are. You know where they're coming from. And in fact, the things that they say are often not the things that they mean.
Exactly. That is a good point, because obviously some of the selfish things that are said in the Satanic Bible, nobody in their right mind would do, you know what I mean? It's
like
there. What? Like, I guess, like, I don't like, I'll read them off the cover, but
please.
It's just, some of them are just like too selfish to go along with, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why would you want to create their own energy? So in a sense, I think it's written there for some people on purpose, in order to not to do those things.
Did you hear that?
I
Yes.
did hear that.
It's
live TV.
Hello?
Baby.
Is somebody on the line? Oh, okay. Well, just one second. Let us just have Lux finish this thought, and then we'll be right with you, caller. But thank you for calling, Lux. If you don't mind, just finishing that thought at the end.
Yeah, some of the tenets in Satanism could be very selfish, but I think, in an allegorical sense, somebody would do the opposite of that. Obviously, you know what I mean? Yeah. Just like as somebody would get the message if it were written in the Bible. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
right.
Thou shalt not sort of deal, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But
yes.
In the
Thou shalt.
Satanic Bible, it's more like you indulge and you take.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It does seem like more proactive than like conceding to an authority that is trying to tell you what not to do. These are the things that you are demanded to do of your life and of your will.
So let's say if you're a debaucherous person, go ahead by all means.
Who, me?
By all means. You know what I mean? If that's
All
your
right, gotta
thing,
go.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just joking.
But a lot of people are not like that, and they'll use the tenets of that sort of Satanism in a different way. You know what I mean? In a celibate sort of manner. Because energy could be harnessed that way as well. You don't have to indulge in nothing. You just sit and know your place, and yeah, that in itself harbors a lot of energy. And discerning yourself right and wrong, that creates a sort of energy bubble in itself. And choosing just to stay stagnant and like in your own space and not choosing either side, that's good too.
Okay, that's a great thought. Yeah, okay. Caller, I hear you're on the line, and I have shivers going up and down my spine in anticipation for you. But in the meantime, Chris, let's go to a commercial, and then we'll be right back with you, caller. Ding! Ding! Ding!
Up in the back there?
It's well known that you have a huge interest in the occult and one of the largest collections of books of that
I
topic.
don't have a huge collection. Somebody wrote I had 20,000 books. I'd have to live in a bath. I have maybe 4 or 5. I have The Devil Rides Out, first edition, signed to me by Dennis Wheatley. There's a book just come out about him called The Devil is a Gentleman. And I have met people who claimed to be Satanists, who claimed to be involved with black magic, who claimed that they not only knew a lot about it, but as I said, I've certainly never been involved, and I warn all of you, never, never, never. You will not only lose your mind, you lose your soul. I don't have a big library in the account, no. I know, look, the internet and the media, if they can't think of something to do, they invent it. If they can't think of something to say, they invent it. I don't know who thought that one up. Looks good in print, I suppose, but it's not true.
Warning signs of satanic behavior may be apparent, such as a sudden, bitterly antagonistic attitude towards family and religion, a drastic decline in academic performance, a reclusive behavior pattern, and listening exclusively to heavy metal rock music, almost to the point of addiction. When one or more of these warning signs are evident, you should look further for ritual items such as a pentagram or other satanic symbols, black or red robes, a decorative dagger or knife, a chalice or goblet, black candles, a personal diary with a black cover, which is called a Book of Shadows, and copies of publications such as the Satanic Bible and the Satanic Rituals, and possibly a small makeshift altar. If you discover items such as these, experts advise you contact your local law enforcement agency at once.
Oh, got me. And we're back. That was funny. Satanic panic, yada, yada, yada stuff. My mom was really, she was a public school teacher in the 80s, and they made her take these classes, and I overheard her saying at one point that Catholics were the most likely people to get involved with a satanic cult because they're so ingrained with ceremony. And anyway, I always felt that.
That's funny that you say that, actually, because the first time I seen a Catholic Mass, I was like, man, I want to be a part of that.
Me too. Yeah. Me too, actually. I love it. In fact, when I was in Europe for some time, I was living in Paris, and I used to haunt around on the weekends, and I'd go in. They do these really ornate masses at night all over Paris,
Wow.
and I would sneak in through the back door because they leave these old doors open, and I found a couple that I could sneak in and sit behind the pulpit. And so I was watching, like, on the ground from eyeline stage, right? Pretty cool. And those stones, you could feel the smoothness, like thousands of boots have run over these things, I imagine. I believe we have a caller on the line. And caller, can you hear us? And if you can, please.
Oh, hey. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Do you see my face?
No, I can't see your face at the moment, actually.
Oh, well, I wish you could, because my face says it all, and I know exactly who this is. Caller, why don't you let Mallory and Lux know your name? I know
who it is, too.
I've talked a lot about
it. My name is Jalissa, and I am calling from Chicago.
So nice to hear your voice.
Oh, it's lovely, and I have like cute kind of first date jitters calling into the show, so that's like fun for me.
Me too, kind of.
Yeah. Wow.
So if you don't mind, Jalissa, I'm gonna frame this call in just a certain way, because you in my magical journey, if I had one, there's nobody more influential than Jalissa in my life. Jalissa was my kind of magic teacher. In fact, we got magical tattoos with each other. Mine adorned on my sternum, so I lovingly, and maybe this isn't the proper way of speaking, I lovingly refer to Jalissa as my witch mother, my witch sister. My first real coven experience or something, and I'll get into that in this call. I haven't offended you yet, Jalissa, have I?
No, only flattered. Only flattered.
Fantastic. So, Jalissa, you're on with us. I don't know how much of the show you've been listening to, but Lux is another very dear friend of mine, and another practitioner, so to speak. So, was there anything that maybe you were calling in to discuss specifically, or if not, I can go off on the rails.
I wanted to call in just to chime in, and I was calling, so I was out of a bit of the conversation. But in the beginning of the conversation, specifically, just emphasizing that ceremony is for everyone, and that it can look. There's a way that you can transform something like a bath into a ceremony. So it should be. I like to kind of challenge everyone to find divine space. Like, we're in divine space, and I love the idea that was woven into this of God being everywhere, God energy, or whatever this kind of power is that is being called upon or worked in. And ceremony is everywhere all the time. And it's a part of us, and it's a part of life, and even in the mundane. But it's so important to, no matter what your faith practice is, or if you don't have one, to find and create sacred space and sacred time. So I love ceremony, and I love the emphasis on that. Ceremony is for everyone.
Absolutely. And in fact, I would say the second most impactful magical moment that I've had, and I say this a lot, I was a member of like we called it a circle, Jalissa?
Yeah, it was a full moon circle, a moon-based circle of, we do magic workings and ceremonial magic as well in the circle.
So, please.
I like how she mentioned that God, or the essence of God, is everywhere, because he essentially is, and that essence is everywhere. I don't know if you're familiar with the Gospel of Thomas, but it's written in there that split a piece of wood and I'm there, and lift up a stone and there you'll find me.
And
I love that.
And how do you find that? Do you find that idea comforting?
Are you asking me?
I am.
I do, absolutely, because even in your lowest, darkest moments in life, you could think about that. Well, like, as long as you're feeling alone, there is God and there's somebody there by your side going through what you're going through at the same time you are. So it's kind of impossible to feel alone. You may feel like you are really internally, but there is an essence still with you.
I think that, I'd love to hear, Jalissa, more about the moon-based ceremonies that you did, because I think it really relates to what you're saying, Lux. Like, looking at the moon for me gives me life, connection. It sort of does what we're saying. It's like it reminds me that I am interconnected with everyone. So
right, these divine spaces that we're creating, and something that I learned recently at the Philosophical Research Center here in Los Angeles. Somebody was saying that they were speaking about these bones that they find in churches everywhere. I know, my dog, right? These bones that they find in churches that are apparently like finger bones or toe bones of saints, that they worship or whatever. The practitioner said, or the speaker said, a lot of these bones, they've like shaved them to sample them and see if there's any like metaphysical elements inside of them or whatever, and they're not even bones. And the person speaking said, and it didn't actually matter, because the relic, the practitioner gives the power to the relic. And so these sacred spaces, and what I was going to say about the moon circle was, man, this feeling that you weren't alone anymore. And I'm going to say this because it was my thought and my feeling, but very particularly, a room full of women in the dark burning, bay leaves with intention and over a cauldron that we're all kind of focused on in the dark, and you can't really see people's faces. The emotional fog, the emotional dew, the emotional something that sits in that room, and it comes to just such a heightened experience that almost every single time I would be crying at some point, and it invites, maybe even insists, like sharing with the group, and then that emotional. It's like Jalissa speaking through me. The emotional divinity of this moment, right? It allows everybody that God essence, right? Like as they're speaking about their woes, they're also figuring it out in that group. Does this resonate with you at all, Jalissa?
Yeah, having community in that way, like, is so important. And there's a lot of I meet a lot of solitary witches or people that practice, and they have their own individual practice. But it's such a beautiful human thing to share space like that with one another. And it's also a way to connect to being a human that is nonlinear, in a sense of, like, working with the moon. It's that practice has just been a part of being human. That relationship has always been there, that observance of the lunar tides and of the solar tides. Those are so foundational to being a human, and so it connects us to our own human nature, as well as that, like, God within self.
Now, I understand that in your practice, Jalissa, you are calling on the natural elements, the nature around you. Lux, were you going to say something? No, I'm sorry. The nature around you, and I know that your specific practice, you're dealing a lot with, as I would call it, nature, plants, and stuff like that. Do you mind, please?
So, as practicing witch,
yes,
you're working more with moon or lunar magic, I'm assuming, right?
Julius, I think.
I do lunar work, and there was a period of time where it was mostly focused on that as well. And in general, I work with plants, and that's kind of like the core of my spiritual practice. Studying plants as an herbalist is kind of what awoke me to spirituality, connecting to the love and the God energy that is in plants. It changed me in this really special way. But so I do a lot of elemental, like 4-direction, and based like ceremonial magic, and a lot of it is the Wheel of the Year observances and things like that worked in to that too.
The year of the wheel.
Yeah.
The Wheel of the Year.
The Wheel of the Year.
Wheel of the Year.
The Wheel of the Year. Okay. Can you? I mean, obviously, I don't know, and I'm sure our listeners at home are well informed. But I would like to know more about this specifically.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe the Wheel of the Year is like the different seasons, autumn, summer and stuff like that. But yeah, just like how I've mentioned to you before, October is the more darker time to do darker magic. And there's certain points of the year where you practice certain types of magic.
Mm-hmm.
And for some people and for some practices like witchcraft, it's more common to do lunar magic as opposed to other religions or occult practices where they're solar based. You know what I mean? Solar religion.
I see.
So that's another thing with Christianity. Quite literally, it was and started as a pagan religion. As Sunday, we have sun worship. You know what I mean?
That makes sense. And the shadow, being the darkness, is the duality inside of that deity.
Mm-hmm.
Is this resonating with you at all, Julissa? Is there a different take with the way that you practice these same elements?
Totally, no. And I like now entering the dark period, the dark half of the year. It is like that time. It's that time of winter. It's that time of like going in. It's that time of shadow work. It's that time of greeting the dead and celebrating them and connecting to them too. And I also relate it to like yin and yang energy. This kind of divine binary that is also like always bleeding into itself and like transforming from light to dark in this cycle. And like it's helpful for me to work in those kinds of timelines. It feels really empowering in a way for me to connect to my most authentic self versus just the kind of ways that culturally we're on this certain clock and routines and schedules of our modern lives. And it's really important for me to like connect to these very basic movements and work with them that way. Like it feels like a better way of getting to understand who I am, and what this, a lot of my mentors will use the phrasing of like spirit dancing in matter. Like we're spirit dancing in matter, like this gift of being alive and having these experiences and lessons and things like that.
Wait. It took me, actually, I had to recite it in my head like 6 times before I caught exactly what you were saying. Spirit, a spirit dancing in matter.
In matter.
Ooh.
I love that expression of it. So, like,
I always thought it was a skeleton inside of a meat costume, but that is much less disgusting.
I feel like also too there must be some sort of disconnect too between like the masculine and feminine energy between witchcraft and Christianity in the first place, because obviously witchcraft is more feminine, you know what I mean, with the mother, the maiden, and the crone is relating to the moon, or like the witch trinity. Whereas the Christian Trinity, it was the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So that is their aspect of it, and would be the solar aspect would be the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Because just as the mother, maiden, and crone, they're just as part of.
When you say crone, I don't know crone. I know crone chocolate.
Crone is like, okay, mother, like the maiden, and the crone, the old lady, the older, elder, wiser lady.
Oh.
So they're just as part of the cycle as the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, where the Holy Spirit is given to the mother, and they transform and give life. You cannot have one without the other.
That's very interesting. So that brings, and in fact, you know, Julissa kind of enlightened me. When I discovered Julissa, I also discovered Lilith, and I don't think that was circumstantial. But back to our creation story, I know a different creation story than some people, just with Adam and Eve, and this character named Lilith being the very first woman on the planet. And her kind of being again, well, there were no feminine and masculine roles, and when it came to sex, and it was like who's gonna top who, and Adam was so insistent on being the top, Lilith was like, fuck off, I don't know why you're being weird about this, I'm gonna go fuck Satan forever. And that idea really attracted me, because if there's anything that like as a fundamental I cannot stand, or I cannot be a part of some cultural mindset that dictates that there is a hierarchy amongst men and women, very specifically, right? So, okay, one, for Julissa, how is it that do you feel detached from that idea of this dichotomy and this warring structure or hierarchy between the two, energies in the universe? And then for Lux, when you're bringing this idea into your philosophy, you're using Christianity as well. How do you come to terms with that?
I think partially that's a good point and question to bring up, because even with the Trinity of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and the Mother, Maiden, and Crone, there is an ulterior entity, figure everyone knows, and I'm sure you've heard of it, known as Baphomet. So this is an embodiment of both masculine and feminine energy. So it's not something that's the norm, but it's something unique and universal, not, you know what I mean? It's both. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, that's actually a very interesting topic, especially as we as a society are coming to terms that there isn't necessarily a binary structure when it comes to a lot of the things that we just have assumed culturally are.
That's a good point. I feel like even with the culture, like non-binary folks would find more fitting as like Baphomet would be for their belief system, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Because it's not just masculine, it's both masculine and feminine. It is, I guess you could say, a non-binary entity. Or a exactly, non-binary entity with no sex, but both of them.
So, and this would be a perspective from and I'm using shorthand here, but like a satanic depiction of the universe,
it doesn't always have to be satanic. It's just a symbol for people to use. Yeah, that's all it is, a symbol.
I see.
Just because it has horns and there's a little flame on top of it, it doesn't make it satanic. It's just a symbol. That little light on top of the head is enlightenment. It's to have the wit more than others. You know what I mean?
And so, Julissa, do you have a relationship with these, a non-binary entity in your practice? Does it help to inform your perspective on the world differently than maybe some might through, the relics, the deities, yada, 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 yada.
Yeah. It's making me, so I'm thinking a lot of things right now. I'm loving, I'm very grateful to be in y'all's conversation. And like thinking of how Baphomet is not necessarily like, it's not necessarily like Satanism, just like someone could use the Lady Guadalupe, and it's not necessarily like this type of Christianity. One thing that I was taught that I really like the idea of about working with energies and deities is that there's like all of this universal God energy, and then there's also this plane of energy of these deities and these beings that are kind of a part of our human experience, but are in their own energetic kind of timeline that it's like we can be involved in it and have relationships with it, just like we're a part of God too. So like I have a patroness, Inanna, the goddess, and I work with her and I have a relationship with her and I make a relationship with her. And sometimes it's then I'm asking for her help in a magical thing, or else I'm just building a relationship to learn something about her because she's a part, she has stories and she's a part of the human experience, but then she also just has her own like power and energy. And when thinking about the binary of like the yin and yang or the masculine and feminine, I was seeing the tree of life of the Kabbalah tree of life, which I'm sure there's people listening who are like not familiar with that, but
do you mind just explaining it? Just okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's used in a lot of different ways in teachings, and it's all about energy centers, and it's kind of like a version of a creation story, or how life is created, and it's something to work on. But in it, there's 3 pillars of it, but there's all these pathways. And in the beginning, there is one sphere at the top of it, and it goes into the initial 2 binaries of masculine and feminine. But then from that, flow down these different energy centers, and all of these pathways are interconnected. So I was just like thinking about that when I was thinking about that binary. I was just like visualizing that and being like, well, there is these binaries, but then there's all these different expressions of what that is, and like ways to cross and combine them. And I'm like getting a little out there.
No, that's what we do. That's what we do here, actually. That's a very... Can you explain to me exactly the way that I'm interpreting it? Okay, there is a binary path and choice to cut the path. Yet it's not necessarily all energetically or physically of one.
More so just on the tree itself, the two, there's like, from the initial source, there's two main points. There's like a little triangle at the top. But then from that, there's all of these pathways and there's all of these other, energy spheres, these sephiras, and they have planetary associations and all of this stuff. But so I'm getting a little out there with what I'm thinking of in this degree. But I just think that I'm just saying that there is all of these different expressions of what that like binary is. Like me working with the darkness now in this time of year, it still is serving the light because you can't have it all the time. That's just not what it is.
That's a good point to bring up because, I mean, in a sense, we're always making a sacrifice with no matter what working we're trying to achieve, to be honest. There is some sort of, whether it's emotional, physical, or whatever, you're making a sacrifice. And working with certain deities and entities, you kind of have to protect yourself. And there's ways to do that. Protection rituals, banishing ritual, and things like that. Planetary rituals are good.
Somebody was recently suggesting a rope cutting ceremony for me, or a ritual, or something.
Some things work
I don't
better.
want to talk about it.
Some things work better than others.
You need some cord cutting, Craig?
Yeah, I do. Sister, I need some cord cutting. Don't we all? Don't we all?
I think how I'm hearing this sort of binary thing, as a non-binary person, that it's not that there are like two paths, but there are, distinct, light and shadow that are at interplay all the time, and it, depending on the context, like everything is at play all the time. So it's not that there aren't opposing
Irregardless of whether you think of them as masculine and feminine, they tie together irregardless.
Yeah.
Like one side of the pillar of the tree of life is masculine, one side is feminine. But regardless, there's a pillar that meets in the middle. You know what I mean? They all connect. So we're going to experience one or the other at any given time as well.
Well, and it sounds like depending on like where you're at or whoever, whatever deity you're working with, you might lean into one more or the other, which again is something I can relate to, day to day, feeling more masculine or more feminine, and it all weaving together all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I go ahead.
Oh,
please.
I'm thinking of how, so on Bina, the primordial kind of feminine energy on the tree, just for example, is Saturn. And Saturn is associated with this like father masculine energy, but it is also this like bearded crone. It's also this like very like deep ancient feminine energy, but it's like it can be expressed in a masculine way, and there can be even like a masculine god or like an image of Saturn.
So is this depiction that we have in folklore of a witch with like whiskers coming out of their face, was that to like horrify us, or was it hinting? Do you know if there was like this idea of the non-binary, that this is a creature that is not fully female and not fully male, and that in and of itself makes it horrifying?
I feel like it was just meant as a universal symbol. So like nobody will feel lost or get lost in the meaning of it anyways. Does that make sense?
Are you talking about of the Tree of Life, or of witches like in the depiction of like these ghoulish whiskered ladies that fuck brooms in the middle of the woods?
I'm not even sure.
Yeah,
me her
neither am
phone
I.
What's her number?
She's actually already on the line, you know. So, okay. So here's a question that I would like to have you both, if you wouldn't mind staying on the line, Julissa, a little bit longer. We are here coming up against All Hallows Eve, as I hear people say in long form, and it feels very much like the evil, the darkness, the satanic, the witchery, the occult. This is their time of year, time to shine, right? Is it because of the days getting shorter? Is it because of the darker night? As I was watching this fingernail moon sail across the sky last night, I don't know what it was. Maybe just the phase or the distance of the moon, but it was sailing so quickly, like right before my eyes. And I thought to myself, man, if I was living in the woods back then, this would be my reality TV. So what is of this season that brings us to these thoughts and these fascinations with these ideas? Anybody?
Well, it is the dark. Like, it is actually like the days are shorter. We're entering the time of the dark. And it's kind of a really big deal when you have this major shift. So, like in my practice, Samhain, which is around the Halloween and the Day of the Dead, is about welcoming that darkness, about like leaning into your shadow, and really like, and it's connected to all of these human stories of underworld stories and things like that. So it is a time of acknowledging those people that have passed, especially like in my practice over the past year, of like what has been lost over the past year, and connecting to the people that have passed, and honoring them in a way that is like respectful of grief, like it doesn't have to feel good, but it's like giving a ceremony to grief.
Can you unpack that? Yeah, can you, like when you say respectful of grief, I think I understand what you mean, but maybe it's worth discussing that a little bit.
I just think because it's something that everyone experiences and it's a human thing, and it's so special for me to like be in a group of people and have a really like, when you're in a community, everyone there's big losses constantly. So like we holding that space for everyone, and especially for the people that have like lost the most. And we're in like a super grieving world, like probably all the time, but especially at the moment. So I love having a ceremonial space for that. And it's not just it is about the shadow work as well too. So it's kind of like jumbled. There's a lot of stuff jumbled up in this area of what I'm talking about. But, giving a space for grief and tapping into it helps you learn more about your own shadow and your own fears. And it's just it's nice to have, for me to have like a holiday type celebration that's about this, that it doesn't have, you can, appreciate it and find joy or find positive things from it, but it doesn't have to be like a happy Halloween. This is happy.
Yeah, like celebrating to cry together.
and celebrating the dead and honoring them, and you can have the happiness in the honoring the ancestors and things like that. That can be happy, and it can all be happy. I don't care, but you know, I like having sacred space for grief, and to me, it's like Samhain. A lot of that is what that is for me. It's like grieving the loss of the sun and the energy of the summer and the harvest. And I work with plants, so it's like everything is dying now and it's going into the earth, and like we have to do this life cycle like again. And
the harvest is death.
Well, I mean, the spiritual veil does get thin at this time of year, so yeah.
Well, can you
say more about that?
Yeah. What?
I
How do you
like,
mean that?
Like Mother Nature even comes to collect. You know what I mean?
Yes. Wait, how did you describe that? The veil of
the veil, like the spiritual veil of the universe.
The spiritual veil of the universe.
Yeah.
That does feel
like the time of the year where it's more easier to connect with the spiritual world. Like that's why, like it's what we're going through in this process right now, the October and like the Day of the Dead area of time. You know what I mean? Of the year.
It does feel easier to connect to even ourselves.
And I think that's what Julissa was trying to say as well.
I believe that's true too. Julissa?
Hi.
Hi. Well, I know that you've been on like an adventure in Illinois collecting herbs. Are there any stories or thoughts that you've collected of recently before we let you go that we can get into? And not that I'm rushing you off. If you've got a great story, I would love to hear it.
You know what? I have like I would love to just like say a little something, and then
Please.
I have a poem that I wrote on Samhain last year for the holiday, and I was like, I could close with that, and that could be my little outro, and I could peace out. I think that'd be cute.
Fantastic idea.
Julissa. Yes, please. Thank you.
But I moved back to Chicago recently to work under my mentor. Again, her name is Althea Northage Orr, and she's an amazing herbalist and hermetic philosopher, and just an all-around badass lady. Has a 80-acre herb farm, and we work in a herbal medicine clinic and do like practical stuff. But we have a pharmacy, and we make the majority of the herbs, and it's really awesome. And if anyone is in Chicago and wants to check it out, you can go to ccphchicago.com.
CCPH Chicago.
CCPH Chicago. Yeah, and she's actually doing a course that's virtual or in person called The 5 Bodies, and it's a course on alchemy. She studied under Robert E. Lee Masters, who worked with Egyptian alchemy, which influenced a lot of which Egyptian alchemy kind of influenced and became what is modern alchemy, and that's a whole other thing. But she also overlaps it with Taoist, with Chinese alchemy and their like 5 bodies system, as well as the Egyptian system too. So this is like her first ever that she's doing a class where she's like putting all of this stuff together, which is really cool. And it's kind of her life's work. She has like 50 years of alchemical and magical practice and exploration, and is just a wonderful woman. So I wanted to shout her out because she's a great teacher of mine, and I've learned so much from her as well too. So I'll close with a little poem, and then thank you so much for having me on air. I wasn't expecting to like be so immersed in your conversation, and it's been really wonderful. And I love talking about this stuff because it helps me understand it. You know, the more we can articulate things, there's a different kind of like knowing that you get on a personal level. All right, so this is a poem I wrote last year about Samhain. As the wheel turns, the dead greets alive, ancestors' great names we share and imbibe. On our witch's new year, the wild woman lays to rest. With our shadows and breathes, may we jest, to reflect a truth begun long before, spirit dancing with matter within every pore. Happy New Year, dear friends. May you have all you need. May the fire inside warm you as the cold does proceed. Tonight I say your names in prayer to honor the life you come from. Long live the great telling for generations to come.
Julissa.
So with that, say goodbye and sending my love to all of you.
I love you so much. I really, really do. Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for getting deep with us in this conversation. And in fact, I think that, let me just check the time.
10:37.
It's 10:37, which means that we have a musical performance coming up very soon for you.
Julissa, I just also
yeah, please,
thank you,
please.
Julissa. I've heard a lot about you from Craig, and it's so nice to hear from you, and I hope to hear from you again. This was just a real gift talking to you.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Please.
I'm
Go ahead, please.
Yep. I just said I'm honored. Thank you.
We are. And that was Julissa, and you'll hear more from them. Check out that link. We'll write it down and we'll put it in the link underneath the YouTube show
description.
Yeah, show description. And we're going to take a small commercial break, and when we get back, we will be greeted with Lux and Seven performing from their musical act, and it's really something to stick around from. So please see us soon.
Great Halloween parties begin at Walgreens. Candy, party decorations, masks, costumes, makeup. Everything you need for
Gosh, Burger Chef, it's Wolfburger the werewolf.
Where can I get delicious burgers? Where can I get fun food? Where, oh where?
At Burger Chef.
Where?
And now at participating Burger Chefs, you can buy fun meals that now come on Halloween magic meal trays. There's a magic trick in each fun meal. There are 10 different magic meal tricks you can collect.
Burger Chef, you're incredible.
Dear Great Pumpkin, I'm looking forward to your arrival on Halloween night.
They're back, all the little Peanuts characters, in a happy Halloween special, filled with ghosties and ghoulies and things that go bump in the night. It's The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, Monday at 8, 7 Central and Mountain.
10 singers, 9 singers, 8 yummy singers, 7 singers, 6 singers, 5 tasty singers.
Everyone wants to zap gold cake with vanilla frosting, devil's food with chocolate, raspberry with coconut, all with cream centers.
Please one singer to zap.
Right now, in specially marked bonus packs, you'll find a pumpkin decorating kit and 2 extra zingers.
Trick or treat.
1 trick and 2 treats from Dolly Madison.
My big friend, I love the big taste of chocolate in this little Hershey's Kiss.
Hershey's Kisses, the little kiss with the big taste.
Hallmark's ready for Halloween, and you know, it's the strangest thing. Everybody's wild about new scratch and sniff stickers in special trick-or-treat packages, and they're dying to take home these cuddly pumpkin bean bags. And these party decorations are so popular, they seem to just disappear. So come to Hallmark, the Halloween store. We're waiting for you.
Goblins, werewolves, vampires. They're not real, but he is a real nightmare. Jamie Lee Curtis, Donald Pleasance. It's the night he came home. Halloween 2.
Thursday at 8 on Channel 17. Parental discretion advised.
Trick or treat! Darn, I knew I should have worn a costume. Yo, Bo Peep, what you got in your bag?
Introducing Roy Rogers' Big Chicken Deal. 2 plump and juicy pieces of fried chicken, hot, crisp fries, and a fresh baked biscuit. Roy Rogers' Big Chicken Deal, just $1.99.
Don't you even think about it.
They are the children of the corn. They must obey he who walks among the rows. And they live in a world where adults are not allowed to live. Children of the corn. A new kind of nightmare. An adult nightmare. Stephen King's Children of the Corn. Rated R.
Coming Friday. Check local newspapers for theaters and showtimes.
Halloween's coming. What are you going to do about it? Whether you do a little or a lot, be an original this Halloween and find yourself at Hallmark.
Hallmark has a way.
And at participating Hallmark stores, get your hands on the Spooky Sounds tape, full of creepy sounds and Halloween theme songs. $1.95 with any $5 Hallmark purchase, only at participating Hallmark stores. It's a scream.
The Halloween
meditation of pain. The game has been changed. Social media distortion, a new kind of purgatory. Burning alive, but still dreaming in dystopia. Trying to find freedom in the scripted reality. Do you believe in destiny? If my body is not a coffin, then why does it feel like one? If my body is not a coffin, then why does it feel like one? If my body is not a coffin, then why does it feel like one? The terror is here, but vengeance is near. Visions of death, the path is unclear. Rage-based society, running on fear. You are the weapon prototype. There's war in my mind. Generations lost, running out of time. Desolation nation, we're not your toys to play with. Hopeless distractions, survival mindset, eternal regret, and RX for rejects. We are all paying for death. Spellcast defense, walls caving in. Flowers blooming in crisis. Blood on their hands, rubble and flesh. Disrupt the silence. Life will never be the same. Temporize, poverty, displacement. Creator, destroyer. Do you feel the pressure? 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 You are the weapon prototype. You are the weapon prototype. You are the weapon prototype. You are the weapon prototype.
Godhead resides within
Great Halloween
oneself.
parties begin at Walgreens.
I believe
Candy,
that
party
man
decorations,
creates
masks.
Godhead resides within oneself. I believe that man creates gods in accordance with his own needs. And if he doesn't, someone else will create them for him.
Who or what is Satan to you?
Satan is the essence of that which dwells within myself.
Would you explicitate this?
Satan is the pioneer, the inventor, Prometheus. Satan has always been the scapegoat, the other, as Thomas Saz, the psychiatrist, calls him. He has always been the opposition to what has been established at the time, the counterbalance that creates change, that creates evolution, that sets the climate socially for modification. Because without this so-called evil, there could be no change.
Mr. LaVey, many of your critics and opponents of Satanism say that you are a businessman and a humbug and you're doing all this just to make your money. You are a show businessman. Is that right?
Well, I believe it's a Barnum and Bailey world. It's as phony as it can be, as the song, the popular song stated. And if I am a humbug and I am a phony, then everyone else is a phony too. And I feel that you have to be a certain bit of a showman in the world in order to get ahead, in order to attain your goals. You have to get people's attention. And in order to deny this aspect of recognition that each of us has, every animal, every living creature wishes recognition in some form or another. This is the whole concept of the mating process, is to be recognized. I think to deny this is to be hypocritical and to be dishonest in the worst way.
In other words, you agree that you misuse people for your own purposes?
We're back. It felt very sharp. That
Hello,
comeback.
are we
That
hearing
wasn't a
Lux?
criticism.
I'm not hearing
Chris.
Lux.
You're not hearing Lux?
I mean, I am because I'm in the same room as Lux, but not on the microphone.
Okay, as we figure out Lux's microphone, Chris, just give us a thumbs up. Okay, great. I think that we got it now.
Okay.
Well, we've got Lux and Seven here with us, who just performed this wonderful piece of music for everybody. Y'all, thank you so much. That was totally awesome. How long have you guys been doing music together? We hear you. They hear you.
Yeah, I think we're
even if you
sure
don't.
that the stream is hearing you, even if you can't hear you. Hopefully.
Started making music today. Yeah.
Wait.
This was the
what?
What?
Yeah, that was our very first time. Throw that together within like 20
I'm doing a lot, way too little with my life. I think. that felt so. Well, let's not harp on that. So it was very deep and touching to me, and it felt very much practiced. Did you just write this piece of poetry today for us?
Yeah.
Oh, you should have led with that. I am a sucker for affection.
What a gift.
Tell us about it. Tell us about how this all came together for you guys. If it was that quick, please.
I mean, we had been talking about collaborating and stuff for a while, and we met up and we ended up just talking and just getting to know each other a little bit, and I thought that was really nice. But I think that, like, as far as like the writing, I kind of realized yesterday at like 2 a.m, I was like, oh no, like I should probably write something. And I started like little like bits and pieces, but I put most of it together today. And I think where I was coming from was just like kind of understanding, you know, like just what's been compiling in my mind, you know, just like these thoughts of like everything that's going on in the world. And it was kind of the first thing that came to mind when it came to like, you know, talking about like a magic segment and stuff like that too, just with like spirituality and all things like that, because I mean magic is in every day, you know, and I feel like our words are spells. It's how we communicate, and everything that we tell ourselves, everything that we say to other people, it's so vital, you know. It's everything, and I just feel like it's a practice that people aren't even necessarily aware of.
You know, to maybe contradict my original or my thought a little bit ago regarding how it's not necessarily somebody's words, yet their meaning behind it. As somebody who just is so affectionate of poetry, I have in my life experienced poems that it felt like it almost left me breathless in the sense that it felt like it was pulling words that I used. And somehow, a painting, a movie that I've had a similar type of experience where, oh wow, that really it was something that was already in my brain. When somebody uses my words or words that I would use to describe something poetically, ooh, it hits harder. Like somehow my words are attached to my personal inner thoughts, like the choice of words.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So, are you a practicing practitioner of magic at all?
I mean, I think that I believe in my own form of magic for sure, you know.
Could you describe that?
I think, you know, it just really comes down to, you know, just like tapping into your ancestors and just kind of like living your life every single day with a lot of intention. I think that looks different for a lot of different people, but I'm a really strong believer in ritual. I practice hook suspension and things like that kind of like ground me and bring me back to my body.
Whoa.
And I think that that's definitely like, I don't know, kind of how I view like magic for myself.
So that's heavy.
I would love to hear more about the hook suspension practice for you and
definitely
how you got there, what that looks like.
I mean, I think that especially in like that kind of scene and community, like everyone kind of has like a different reason for doing it. I think that for me, like I was a teenager when I first started watching videos of people doing hook suspension, and it was just practice around so many different cultures all throughout the world, and you know, like just for all different types of reasons too, you know, like communicating with the dead, and you know, like people just going on insane vision quests trying to understand like their purpose and their journey and where to go to next. And I think that throughout all of those things, you know, I had a lot of reasons for kind of like getting into that kind of practice and spiritual practice for myself. And I will definitely say like I've never done anything quite like that before in my life, and it's been something that's been so liberating and so trance-like.
Okay, I have to ask you about this stuff because whoa, hook suspension. It is hardcore. I've worked with some suspension artists. I have friends that are suspension artists, but I have worked on stage with these performers in a situation where every night that I ran this act, you know, there was blood on the ground. You know, it is not brutal. You know, and there's no like safety measures that are up where you're practiced. No, it's still ripping your skin out while you're, you know, flailing around, right? I don't mean to be disrespectful by saying flailing. It's hard for my brain to compute exactly why somebody would embark on something that is so painful, only because it's hard for me to imagine what the benefit above the brutal pain or discomfort lies in. Now, if you don't mind, I have, through a lot of work, really tried to understand, and the thought that I have put around it was there are extreme feelings that your body feels, and they're not valued by your mind. You know, it's extreme hot, it's extreme cold, it's extreme pain, it's extreme guilt, it's extreme joy, it's extreme, you know, hotness, whatever, right? So arguably, like, pain is a more intense sensation as it comes through than maybe you could have as a scale of joy, right? Like, my joy meter goes up to 10, but my pain meter, when I'm really in pain, like, it trumps any type of joy feeling that I've had as far as intensity. So my question to you, is there this mind trick that you're able to play on yourself where you're converting this intensity from, you're able to take an intense sensation and put it wherever you want in your mind? Am I making sense? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
absolutely. I think that we can transmute pain into something more, you know, like meaningful and something more joyful if we allow it. You know, like the power of our mind is incredible. But I think that, you know, like for me, like I do view pain as a meditation, and, you know, like things that do kind of like bring people pain, I feel like I'm not afraid to try them and try to create like a different relationship with it. I think that you learn a lot about yourself when you put yourself in a situation where you kind of like, I don't know, you kind of like get to know yourself a little bit more. You kind of see yourself in a real way in those moments, you know, like even when you're stretching or something like that, you know, like just anything that you could possibly think of. It's like recreating that relationship is really, really powerful. And I think that when I started hook suspension, I was going through so many traumatic things in my life, and I was totally just like mentally preparing myself like days and days before I was going to do it. And I was really, really surprised because it didn't hurt as much as I thought it would, because my body was taking care of me, you know, like my body just kind of like jump started into this like adrenaline mode, and I felt so happy actually, and the pain just kind of dissolved because my mind was somewhere else. And I think that when you allow yourself to kind of like find that happy space in your head, like none of that really matters anymore.
I have this is really fascinating and mesmerizing and wonderful, and something that I'm sure, especially in today's culture, so many people at home have witnessed and seen some sort of depiction of body suspension, you know, and I'm sure, as most people are horrified or put off by it in some way. And so I think that this is a very revealing look for maybe some people who don't get to sit down on a couch and speak with somebody that does this, how it's beneficial to them, and in what way, as you were describing it, might have brought you out of a tragic situation that maybe you didn't have fully control over, or helped you.
Yeah, you know, I think that I think it was kind of interesting because it was just like an experience that I don't really think I ever would have necessarily been ready for, but it came to me at the right time, and I had a lot of support. I had a lot of my friends go with me. You know, one of my friends did it like right after me too. We had the whole ceremony.
For the first time.
Yeah, for the very first time, and it was just really awesome. I think that, you know, anybody that is willing to try something like that, it's an experience that you're never gonna have like doing anything else. You know, it's so unique to itself, and I think that that's one of like the really awesome things about it. And the whole time too, I was just like thinking about, you know, all the people before me that had been in the same situations and just like, you know, going through that same experience.
Oh, wow. That's not where my mind would go, but that's a very interesting I'm sorry, Lux, you please.
I just think that pain is like another form of like purifying your soul, or like allowing yourself to know that you're also human, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Physical pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I have this ear infection. And
That's gonna purify. You don't know it yet, but that's purifying your soul.
Well, I
feel like it's making my eyes lopsided at the moment, but yes.
You have sunglasses on.
Yeah, well, that's why the sunglasses, but.
Well, I mean, I think it resonate a lot with the shifting your relationship to pain, and also how pain can sort of serve in if you're going through a lot of trauma or dealing with a lot of things, and how like disembodying certain traumatic experiences can be. That I've had the experience of, you know, pain, self-inflicted pain, helping me through those, of reminding me of my humanity, the pain allowing a different outlet for things that might be stuck in my body. I think, I don't know, I'm just thinking at the beginning of us talking about sort of the meditative practice of magic and, you know, spirituality, and that, you know, just creating the space for us to be in our bodies. And I think intentionally leaning into pain is another way of doing it. It's of reminding ourselves of our like the physicalness that like our our soul. Yes, that it is all interconnected, that we can't separate one from the other.
Okay, so then that brings me to this question for anybody here. How has pain, not pain, because pain seems circumstantial. Pain seems like it's something that's put on you. But in this particular case, outside of other instances of self-harm that are considered to be despair and unhealthy, this doesn't seem to the way that you're describing it to me, it doesn't seem unhealthy. In fact, it seems like maybe it was an unhealthy world to you, and this is something that helped you very much so in a healthy way.
Absolutely.
So, can you paint me a picture? Forget, because I'm trying to collect my thoughts and put it into a cohesive question. Like could you walk me through like this intensity, this real physical thing that you cannot detach from, you know, as a feeling person, that you approached voluntarily, and then that exact same thing, now in the throes of agony from it, when does it click? What is that? What is it? The light at the end of the tunnel? Is it a godlike moment? Can you describe it with any type of maybe poetry even? Like, what was that click over, and then how did it feel?
I mean, I think I understand why, you know, people use like bloodletting for therapy. You know, that's been a thing for so long, you know, and that's something that I feel like people tend to forget. And when I think about how that correlates with like something like hook suspension, you know, everyone kind of has like their own intention, you know, everyone sets their own intention for something like that. And for me, like, I specifically lost someone really, really close to me, and I just really just needed to get it out of my system, you know, just like the grief and the loss.
And I don't mean to cut you off, but when you say it, what was it?
Just
the it that you needed to get out of your system.
All the heaviness that I felt was stuck in my body, you know, like my body felt stagnant and like lost in so much grief. And I feel like I just wanted it to leave my body, you know. I knew it wasn't serving me in the ways that, you know, like something else could. And I knew that by doing something like that, I could probably like reach a different level with myself where I would feel better, you know, like some type of like release, like catharsis. And, you know, like it was incredible because I thought I was gonna get up and I thought I was just gonna start crying, and I ended up doing the complete opposite. Like I couldn't stop smiling, and I felt like my loved one was like with me, and it was just like such a beautiful moment. And like I've never felt that way doing anything else, you know. I genuinely felt like I had a moment with, you know, like this person that was really important to me, and like I like felt like an embrace at one point too, and I was just closing my eyes for most of it.
I
and
see
it
you
was
getting
beautiful.
emotional right now.
Yeah, because it was really powerful. Like I can't even put it into words, you know. It's just like one of those things where like I feel like if you do something enough with enough intention, like it shines through.
The intention, the practitioner as opposed to the relic.
Exactly.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I hunger for this in my life. I hunger for something I could buy, something I could do that could change me as a person, you know? And it never does, you know, no matter how intense the you know, the mosh pit was, the thing that I love to do, no matter how great it was and how hard we went in on it, never changed me. It made me forget it for a while, maybe formed a habit that put me on, please.
I don't think a spiritual feeling or a true spiritual thing is something that could be bought in the first place. I think that's something that needs to come from within yourself at the proper moment.
Sure. And I was being sloppy in a sense, like I just want it to come from outside of me. I don't feel I have I'm an existentialist, you know, and a pretty dramatic one at that. And I think when I get I've traveled all through my mind. I've traveled through all of my emotions, the ones that I feel like I can access. I've intellectualized them. I've maybe pseudo-intellectualized them. And I can't imagine anybody having like a good idea or thought to help me through it, right? Because I've been there. I just want something to change that propensity.
Totally.
You know? Do you feel like something so dramatic, so impactful in your life physically, did it make it easier to remember that as a significant changing point in your life?
It was definitely a huge turning point. I think that that's why I wanted to do that specifically, because I knew that like no matter what I couldn't escape myself, you know. It was like the one thing that I could give myself where I couldn't run away from my thoughts, you know. I had to like be there with myself and I had to face myself, and it's really scary, you know. It's really scary to like dive deep into your own mind sometimes, you know, especially when you're moving through so many emotions, you know. Like it gets really wild sometimes. I feel like something like that like brings you back to your body, brings you back to yourself, you know. Like I don't know, to me that's what magic is, you know. It's something that's like just constantly reminding you who you are.
Like I was telling Mallory earlier, a lot of people don't even allow themselves a space to do that for themselves, you know what I mean?
Totally.
Like how, if you're not going to allow yourself the space to do that for yourself, how are you going to attempt to do that for another? That just doesn't make sense.
Okay. So here's a question to that thought. I sometimes, when I'm overindulging or when I feel like maybe I would be inclined to, maybe not, but maybe I would be inclined to get up in front of a crowd if given the opportunity and you know, do some sort of ritual where I'm the center of attention and it requires like a lot of, you know, communal like effort to like get me in the right headspace and make me comfortable and make me push my boundaries. It feels so like
Also,
everybody look at me. Well, I have a show.
Who's stopping you from doing that, even if you wanted to? Besides yourself, exactly.
Because it feels like this is a great thought, because I don't. For instance, when I was like a teenager and I hung out in like the punk rock scene, and when I first kind of got in there and I was going to these punk shows, I was very different from the other punks that were there frequently. The other punks were very stylized and they were very like punk looking, right? I wore a white t-shirt that most of the time I would write something upside down in the mirror, you know, on my shirt when I got a good idea. And brown pants that I took from my grandfather's closet when he died. And I was criticized a lot. I was not, I mean, I was, you know, this is when you're 14 and 15 years old, so it's like people are like, you're not fucking punk. Like, get a jacket, get a fucking, you know.
Well, those ones who are criticizing you are not punk.
I believe that through and through. I you know, I was a Minuteman punk. I didn't need any of their fucking, you know, whatever epitaph, like fashion sensibility that they were following at the time. It wasn't something that I was interested in. In fact, I felt very comfortable bucking against that. But what that did for me, even inside of this lifelong fascination of cultural, you know, subcultures, and wanting to be comfortable enough inside of them that I could go and check it out and explore. But I never wanted to buy in to this formatted ideal that I needed to be to participate, you know? And in a way, I didn't want to vie for their attention. I didn't want to earn their care for me. I wanted it to come naturally, you know, and because I wasn't exactly like them, it felt like I was out of every culture, whether it was the goths, the vampires, the you know, outside of the Rocky Horror Picture Show culture, you know, and those people, like, where it was interesting because I saw all of the other weirdos from the goth gang, from the Magic the Gathering people, you know, all of the skaters. Somehow, the others inside of these groups, we all kind of found each other in this one place that harbored just weirdos that were even weirder than the weirdos, you know. I guess what I'm saying is that it feels like such a communal act. Like you don't have one of the contraptions that can hang you and swing you, you know, in your backyard.
No.
And you need people that have medical training and understanding to sanitize the equipment. I mean, in the ones that I've been at, it's very clinical. You know, they take their jobs and these efforts very, very seriously, as they should. There is a high bar for admittance in these situations. So what was it like to kind of, oh, I need this, I want this, but now I have to earn like their invite and their passage because I depend on them to get there?
I think that was an interesting experience because it was pretty easy for me, actually. It was like overnight, you know, like I just looked up like hook suspension groups and stuff in my area, and I found one immediately, and I sent them an email right away and just told them that I wanted to be a part of their next ritual. And they told me how much it was going to be for the cost of supplies and everything, and I sent them the money, and I showed up, and that was it. You know, it was really kind of awesome. There wasn't any like cliquey bullshit with anything. Like everyone was just really, really down, and honestly, like that's exactly what I needed too. So I feel like it just, the opportunity, like I sought it out, but it also kind of found me too.
Very interesting. Okay, here's another thought. Like I understand that I didn't know that there's a history of suspension, and so this is a new thought to me. But I do know that like self-induced pain to get to like a perceivable God state or divine state, or to like change your head. This is something that's found in religiosity as far back as anything, and specifically, you know, in Catholicism, this like ritual of self-flagellation and like really tearing the shit out of your body as a blessing, as an offering to God. The pain that you're giving, or that you're like, the pain is the road to hearing God's voice, as I understand it. And correct me if I'm wrong. Do you know more about this, Lex?
Well, I think with even pain, like extreme amounts of pain, you could reach a spiritual experience or an epiphany, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, a lot of people even use that or chastise themselves in order to get closer to God. I mean, it makes sense, you know what I mean? Jesus Christ, before he was crucified, went through a lot of suffering. And I feel like people try to match that in order to become closer to him.
That is the idea, right? Interesting that it's always like the pain path. You know, nobody gets the wine and fish path.
I mean, well, pain sometimes is the only thing that allows a person to feel. That is, there's only one extreme for people. You know what I mean? A lot of people only feel extremely this or extremely that.
Oh yeah, that I can identify. Mallory.
Well, I'm thinking, and I mean, growing up in a real Catholic family where like suffering and was revered, I think that there's a sort of, sometimes in some religious practices of pain and suffering, it can become kind of self-righteous, which is not even a little bit how, you know, I'm hearing this relationship to pain. You know, that I think there's a difference between doing it for God or like, you know, doing it in a very embodied way to connect to yourself, not in like a martyr kind of way, you know, in a performative kind of way. We're all performing all the time, but, you know, I've witnessed the difference in my own life of people, you know, of Catholic people, you know, like exclaiming how much they are like giving of themselves to suffer for others, you know, and it just feels false and fake, where it feels important for me to separate, you know, the practice that Seven is talking about, you know, as it feels like a very different kind of relationship to pain.
Well, how do you feel about like the martyr idea with like yourself and putting yourself through suffering? Or like pain?
Are you talking to me?
No.
Oh no, I'm not a martyr. Not me.
I mean, I guess I've never really thought about it like that, especially when it comes to, you know, something like hook suspension. Like I feel like it was genuinely just something that I knew that I needed to do, and I knew that it was something that was always going to be on my path. I think that I can definitely I definitely know what you're talking about when you're saying that.
Like
I
you
also
allowed
grew up
Catholic.
yourself
The space to feel that, or
exactly.
go through that experience.
You know,
what I mean?
but you also have to be open to that. And I think that I would never advise anyone to do something like that if they didn't actually want to, or have that awareness of themselves in order to start. I feel like everybody has their own timeline, and that's totally okay. We're all going through our own shit all the time, and I think that when the time is right, the time is right, and you'll know when that is.
I wonder when it will be my time.
I don't know if ever.
I really do think that it's interesting that I have a really close friend of mine who has studied a lot of different worldly philosophies and has kind of enlightened me on to not be so judgmental of the path of the monk, you know what I mean, and how these early even Christian leaders and saints, now I think they're considered saints, but these paths of pain that they put themselves on, living in monasteries on top of mountains, you're walking on rocks every day, and then that's just the life stuff, then they're in their privacy of their rooms and tearing skin off of their back. And I know that this was the genesis of this for them was losing somebody that was very close to them, very close to us, and how to deal with it. And I know that it feels like their mind was on the edge of my head, my heart, my soul is in that casket with them, wanting to give them warmth. And for some reason, that doesn't seem like something practical to strive for. So how can I utilize these feelings that don't have? Somebody once asked me, "Is a headache a physical object?" No. Can you point at it? No. Does everybody know what it is? Yes. And we could all know where it lies, but it's not something like that. Yet, I imagine that this loss pain, when you can point where it's at, when you cut the top of your arm, when you even lace your dressing too high, too tight, you know what I mean, to give you just some of that bound to go on with your day. This seems like a meditation.
Something you're kind of in control of. Is that what you're trying to say?
Something that you're in control of, but you're making it extreme
Tangible.
so that you can conflate the two and point to where it's at in time and space.
Interesting.
And I can identify with that.
You could actually put a finger on where the pain is coming from.
Yes, you can. That quip your head hurts. Give me your hand, and then you slap their hand, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, that helped for a second. I know exactly."
I just think it's different. It's different for each and every individual who does hook suspension or who does body piercing or body modification. Everybody's individual experience is going to be different, and they're going to have their own reasons as to why they're doing what they're doing. Just like how everybody has their difference to why they do magic or why they do witchcraft or why they partake in the Eucharist or partake in a Catholic Mass or whatever.
Exactly, what kind of magic they practice, because there's all different kinds that you can dive into.
Interesting that you talked about body modification, because I know that the cultures kind of go hand in hand in some ways. Yet I have seen a transition in body modification culture, let's say, getting tattoos because they wanted something beautiful, or they identified with some image, or they thought it made them beautiful. And specifically some people that I ran with in Europe, they were getting tattoos, the principle was the pain. the tattoo artist was extreme and violent with them. It was almost a performance of sorts, and they were doing it on parts of their body that were overly sensitive, including the eyes, and even the artwork itself. Not that this necessarily needed to be this way, but the artwork itself was violent and erratic, and it looked like somebody was just trying to hurt you with ink. You
Different cultures, I think that those are like their rites of passage as well. It's like
Yeah.
feeling and getting tattooed, like the Maori culture and like stuff
Right.
like that.
So those seem like designs, and not just like intentional pain with a mark that will mark that pain forever.
Tribal, like so to speak, you know what I mean? And even in like African culture where they intentionally cut their skin, where they cut their skin in patterns to look like a serpent.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Or like, you know.
Is that, because I don't know, is that something that is more of an aesthetic end game, or is it the pain is part of it?
The pain and the aesthetic is part of it. So aesthetically, you're embodying that animal strength, as well as like you're wearing it as a beauty as well.
So
a lot of people wear pain differently and express it differently.
What is the most intense measure of this meditation or magic that you've seen that
I think just the connection of trying to get in connection with your own culture, to be honest. It makes more sense that way when you
Your
stick
own
to your
culture.
culture and you, yes.
That seems like a curious question to me, especially being one that is born out of the diaspora of my people, that I don't have a culture. You know, I don't have a homeland. I don't have a place that I identify with. Even my family tree it's just stories of people running away from murderous mobs from this place to this place to this place throughout Europe, right? So when now we're in the present tense, right? And I feel very privileged in being able to pull from the audio, Satanism, witchcraft, Catholicism, Buddhism, whatever. I feel very, very privileged being able to do that. And I realize that there are some ideas that seem like I'm more culturally aligned to, even though I'm not, in history. Please, yes. Oh, I forgot.
Like that one?
Hi, my name is Craig Kwan, and this is the Satanic Bible and the Satanic Rituals, written by Anton LaVey, who we just kind of saw. Actually, do you mind scooting down? Because I'm going to pull this mic because this is going long. You don't mind hanging out with us, do you? No. Okay. I'm really enjoying this. Yeah. So, let's get into this, because you did bring a lot of books with you, and that's actually what I requested, because you worked in a bookshop. You're very well versed on these magical and kind of forbidden books in most of the culture that I'm familiar with, or the way that I was raised. Let's start with the Satanic Bible. What is so important about this book, the one that Anton LaVey wrote? When was it written? In the 60s?
Somewhere around there, but culturally, I think it's just significant because it came around the time of like free love and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Sammy
and this
Davis
was in San Francisco.
Yes, Sammy Davis Jr. was associated with them. Marilyn Manson, Mark Almond. A lot of their names are still in that book, to be honest.
And so, when I was growing up, Satanism was Anton LaVey. It was this weird white guy with a pointy beard that, for all intents and purposes, I was like so excited. May I pass this around? I was so excited when Anton LaVey or his kids were on Ricky Lake, you know what I mean? Because it was about to get weird, and he was an uber intellectual. That's what I loved about him. He was singing my song, and he was doing it with wicked eyebrows that were jagged in the mid. He always looked very angry, yet he was sincere, and you couldn't really argue with much of what he was saying. I mean, it read to me as if it was a thumbing the nose at the religious culture that we existed in. Nothing mattered. That's how I found it, or that's how I kind of bought into it. Nothing matters. It's all bullshit, but there is a reason for you to enjoy yourself. There is a reason for you to dig into your will, right? You want it? Take it. As long as it's not fucking with anybody else. As long as it's not somebody else's first, or they've got claim over that thing that you're trying to, grasp.
I think people owe it to themselves to explore their own spirituality, honestly.
Okay, but with Anton LaVey specifically,
well, I mean, can we?
Please,
I
yes,
don't need
please.
to read all 9. I just remember when Lux came over a few days ago. I remember reading the inner flap of this, and there's the 9 satanic statements, and I remember it really illuminated to me, sort of, in the most beautiful way. I don't need to read all 9 of them. Well, maybe I will. So, Satan represents indulgence instead of abstinence. Satan represents vital existence instead of spiritual pipe dreams. Satan represents undefiled wisdom instead of hypocritical self-deceit. Satan represents kindness to those who deserve it.
Wait, can we read that last one?
Yeah. Satan represents undefiled wisdom instead of hypocritical self-deceit.
Okay, may I ask a question? Satan, as used in that tenet there, are they speaking of the Satan of the Christian religiosity, or are they changing the language, appropriating the language?
They're using the verse of Christianity.
Yes.
In a verse manner, not necessarily a negative connotation. Nothing really negative about what she just read. I didn't even hear anything negative about it.
It's
No, I didn't
beautiful.
either.
No,
Yeah.
again, I think that's why I loved when I first read it, is I agree. Every statement felt like freedom to me, especially growing up in a very Catholic family where I heard the opposite of these statements, the hypocrisy, the self-deceit, holier than thou, literally holier than thou sentiments, that everything, I feel like these 9 statements feel in exact opposition to that. It's not anything bad or negative. It's just, it represents an alternative.
So then let me ask you this, Mallory.
Mm-hmm.
When you read this, was it enlightening to you when you read this for the first time? And I don't mean in that moment. Does it feel like, oh, wait a second, like that moment in the desert, oh, Satan, wow, yeah, it's still powerful, but it's different.
Yes, I will say that it did that in a very specific way. Again, growing up in a Catholic family where Catholic guilt was deeply entrenched in me, and the idea of evil in a very specific way, that reading about Satan in this way, I was like, oh, I can get on board with that. And it was a very freeing perspective shift on what I was taught growing up.
Mm-hmm. So what you're saying is that everybody should try Satan. Yes.
I think what Mallory's trying to say is that, in fact, what everybody was telling her about Satanism was a lie, basically.
Yes, I think that is what I'm saying, which is absolutely in line with every discovery I've made about how I was presented with religion growing up. That it was for a specific reason through a very specific lens, not for self-discovery. It was not, to be a more grounded, good human. It was fear, shame,
family.
In family.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
like
in
it's
all
protecting
sense,
the culture,
absolutely.
right?
And secrecy and
Yeah.
in service of power in a very specific way. Which is horrifying. And I think that's what, reading this, it's giving the exact opposite of that, which is beautiful to me.
I think it's beautiful too. Lux, I asked you to bring all of these books, and there's some really beautiful books here. Are there any others of note that you would like to point out? There are some. Those that. What do you call it?
This
volumes?
is the infamous 10-volume set of The Equinox by Aleister Crowley. These books have been around since like the early 1900s, and this is Aleister Crowley's system of magic, basically.
Wow.
And his tradition in magic stems from his time with the Golden Dawn, a hermetic order that was started a long time ago, even pre-Aleister Crowley. And this is his system.
And what exactly could you describe the system in any sort of way that we could understand it in general?
Well, I'm sure a lot of the public have heard of Aleister Crowley's slogan of "Do what thou wilt."
Yes, it's actually on a statue in LA. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at the Philosophical Research Center.
So it's just like that's the main tenet of the lema, or Aleister Crowley's system of magic, is "Do what thou wilt, and do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law," which basically means just do your will without inflicting on anybody else's will to live. And that's pretty much it.
So that is pretty difficult, Mark, right? To do whatever I want, yet not infringing on anybody else. What if what I want is their love? What if what I want is even as benign as their attention?
You're infringing on somebody else's will to live.
Well, what if I could convince them?
You need to bring that apart, like within yourself. So if you want somebody to love you, make yourself into a lovable person.
Wow.
If you're an asshole, nobody's going to want to love an asshole.
That's not what I wanted to hear.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Actually, I'm well aware of this.
It is a sort of manipulation. You got to manipulate yourself into being the perfect person you would want to be with. When it comes to love, so to speak.
Do you think that there's a propensity, maybe, for people that are writing these doctrines and that are leading these camps of people who are doing art thou wilt and wanting to fuck each other and wanting to get jobs with each other and wanting to network and fraternize with each other, and all of a sudden you've got some people that are controlling those that are maybe less driven but want to be included, and so they're following thou will and not thine will.
Interesting. I think anybody could get lost in another person's creative energy, you know what I mean? You could lose interest in your own projects and gain more interest into somebody else because it seems more interesting. I mean, it doesn't have to be detrimental. Like, me and Seven came together at the last minute to make some music, and it turned out to be great.
It really was.
We didn't practice or nothing. We didn't plan it out. I mean, we planned maybe years ago to make music, but like this was last minute.
So
I feel like sometimes the last minute things are the most magical things.
Oh yeah, that's why I never plan to take psychedelics. I always just do it, and then it's great. But if I think about it too much, it fucks up my whole week. So I understand that, but I feel like there is, and this is one thing that I feel very maybe allergic to when I'm entering some sort of group philosophy, that there is this danger that I feel is inherent of the one person that knows what's real and what isn't, and the only person that really knows that is the person that's saying it all. And I feel if I suspend disbelief, if I suspend my skepticism and let myself follow, then what?
It's interesting, because I mean, a lot of societies or a lot of like forms of magic, fraternities won't even let you proceed on to the next level until they see that you're ready. You know what I mean? It could be a matter of years, months, whatever, however long it takes to see your development, and your work, and your progress individually.
And who are they to determine that?
I mean, people who like clearly know better than the next person if they're a part of the fraternity or organization to begin with.
Is it true that Anton LaVey and Aleister Crowley have been accused of taking advantage or manipulating people around them to their detriment?
Aleister Crowley absolutely has been accused of that plenty of times. I don't condone it, and I don't think it's right, but that was that person's mode of operation. Everybody's mode of operation is different. Personally, I'm not like that. Just because I partake in his form of magic doesn't make me a bad person, especially if I'm not using it for negative. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I truthfully believe that, and I think that these things can be complicated and not binary.
But I get the stigma though of like having an association with a negative person or a negative group or a negative this or that, and personally I don't care. I mean, it suits me, and it doesn't. You don't have to involve yourself with me, and I don't want to involve myself with you, to be honest.
Oh yeah, that I feel. And that's what I like most, you know.
Everything I have in my life right now, I've had to manifest all on my own. And I work hard for my money and the things that I have in my life. And I mean, you can't get everything with magic, but you gotta meet yourself halfway.
So what is that halfway magically? Okay, let me pose it like this.
So, for example, anybody could read a book.
Yes.
But as long as you're putting your what you're reading into practice and testing it, it's a method. It's a belief. Religion is a science that you need to put to the test yourself, honestly, to get results. And what is life? What is life but a big fucking test in a game?
Yeah, a big science experiment.
If you're not gonna experiment with life, you're just gonna waste your potential as a human being, as a person.
I appreciate it.
And it feels like I'm destined to be dead when they give out the grades.
But I think a lot of people who feel lost, you need to allow yourself the grace of feeling lost, and allow yourself the grace of finding yourself, however that may be. Everybody's valid. All your feelings are valid. It's just a shame that people still feel lost in this day and age. You know what I mean? We're supposed to uplift each other, and we lack doing that for each other. And it's,
Yeah.
Do you feel lost?
Yeah, I'm not the perfect person. I don't see myself as better or than a homeless man sleeping on the street. And nothing makes me better than that person. Nothing at all. I mean, sometimes I feel like I have it all, but nothing can change what goes on up here. You know what I mean?
Do you feel lost, Seven?
I mean, I think we're all a little lost.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
But you would agree that most people, but that some people in our society, they would never say that.
No, I think that there's a lot of people that like to play pretend, but I mean, there's no way in hell that someone can look at me dead in the eye and tell me that they don't feel uncertain about something. I think that, like, we're all just constantly trying to find moments of happiness and freedom in whatever way that means to us. And in the moments where you're not experiencing those things, how can you not feel lost? We live in a society that wasn't built for us. I think that in order to feel like you have like a perfect place in all of this, you, I don't know, are probably a fucked up person. Like,
Yeah, I was just gonna say I don't really trust anybody who is certain all the time or exclaims that they are certain all
Absolutely.
the time. Because yeah, our world is not built that way. You're kidding yourself if you're saying that.
Exactly. And I think the cool thing about, like diving into different forms of like spiritual practice and stuff too is like, you can read one of these books and you can take away a lot from it, or you can just find pieces that really resonate with you. Nothing is super defined in that way. Nothing like has to be like every single page that you agree with wholeheartedly, but it's like, you take the things that do work for you and you run with it and you make it your own.
Chaos magic, as I was told
Mm.
it was. I don't know if that's a term that you guys use.
You take something and you make it your own. That's the whole meaning of magic. You know what I mean? It's like you use bits and pieces of it, and it fits you. It fits you. Not everybody's method or science is the same, but everybody gets their different results how they put it. As long as you're putting your intention into it.
Well, that seems to me to be a very impactful statement and a nice sentiment to end this conversation in the middle of the night. But before we end it, I would like to know, is there anything else that either of you would like to share with our audience that we haven't touched on, or sentiment that can maybe...
No more callers? We're done?
Yeah, it's one of those nights.
Interesting.
I mean, it's really a time thing, and we've got some. I wanted to give enough minutes here in our final to kind of. Wait, Chris, do we have a caller? No. Okay. Okay, thank you. So, I feel like we've offered a gift to our listening audience and anybody who comes across this as some insight on something that they might not be experienced or familiar with in some way. Is there anything else that maybe somebody that's on that journey that maybe is lost like us, that you might have some words of wisdom or I don't know.
Honestly, I don't. But if you feel like contacting me or DMing me personally, I will be happy to message anybody back with words of wisdom personally for you and not for everybody. Because everybody's different. Everybody needs to hear different things.
I love that.
I love how thoughtful that was.
Yeah.
Seven?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's just like a general statement, just be kind to everybody, Like, there's so much bullshit going on in the world right now. Like, the least we could do is to just, offer, like, the bare minimum kindness that you can. I mean, it goes such a long way sometimes, and I feel like it's something that I feel like is really lacking, especially in places like this, like, you walk down the street, like, acknowledge someone, even if it's just with your eyes, Everyone's so in their weird little individualistic world, and, like, we collectively, like, live and breathe amongst each other, like, there's no reason why, like, you can't, like, share a smile or just have, like a short moment with someone, like humanize each other, like, everything is meant to be, like, shared, like, enjoyed life, like, celebrate life with people.
And get together and create with each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Make some fucking music. Do something positive. Don't keep your mind in the gutter all the time. I know that's easier said than done, but a lot of people are going through it.
I'll be 100% honest with you. I feel better equipped right now in this moment to do exactly that. To make more. To do art thou wilt. I know I've been making a lot of funny, but I didn't mean that humorous. That meant that felt like it really has weight to me in this moment. So, Mallory?
Well, I kind of feel like what they both just said was the impetus for this show. Community, connection, creating space where people can be humans and share of themselves.
Mhm.
So I'm just really grateful that the two of you were here to share this space with us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's really, you've made my night. You've made you've really made this evening and this
It's a really
experience
special show
special.
tonight.
Yeah, and I hope our audience, even though we didn't get the callers that I was hoping and expecting for, I hope that this resonates, and maybe sometime in the future, I certainly would love to have you guys back for a musical performance again, and maybe we can get into a little bit more of this, and maybe some of our listeners will have had some time to sit with this and have more questions or, queries and guidance. And until then, Chris, would you mind first rolling the credits, and then when you hit the credit button and they start rolling, then you come out here and expose yourself as a real living entity to our audience? Wait,
People to see you. Do we have nightly readings?
I shouldn't have said expose yourself. Do we have nightly readings also? We don't. Yeah, right.
That's
It's
okay. No, yeah.
it's been a
producer
lot
Chris had
on the
his
plate.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure.
Okay, yes. Let me give a thank you, first of all, to our special guests, Lux and Seven, and obviously producer Chris, and Pippa manning the phone station, and Abigail, who has helped us with our set design and lighting and camera angles and costuming and all of that stuff. And Brody, Brody, part of the fam that I've really been dropping the ball in that relationship. And Brody, I just really admire and enjoy all of the work that you've put in on this little project of ours. I'd also like to thank Jesus. Oh, I meant Isa. Actually, I meant Isa. Isa,
Of course.
and all of us, all of you at home. I say us, all of us at home, listening and watching. And am I missing somebody, Chris?
Hey, thanks, Craig.
Oh, fuck, that felt good. Thank you, guys. Thank you. That was our show. Sleep well and, maybe explore something here and there. Chris, roll that beautiful bean footage. What the fuck?